Welcome back for another video. 43 points and a very small green arrow to 53k last game week in what played out to be a very chaotic game week following the benchings for Foden, Ekitike and Haaland, and blanks as well from pretty much all the popular captains. A Saka return would have been absolutely huge following that Haaland blank and benching, but it wasn't to be. It was between him and Thiago for me, and they both ended up blanking anyway. The two transfers were both positives though. Gakpo and Foden out, Bruno and Enzo in, which gained 10 points off the bat. You might recall from the team selection video that I was already aiming to do Foden to Enzo, so that leak actually massively played against me. It would have been a really good call, but that's how it goes. O'Reilly did start though, which was great, and he kept a clean sheet. No one else at the back kept a clean sheet, but did have the Van Dijk goal and DEFCON for a 9-pointer. I'd said last week that I'm actually just happy to keep hold of Van Dijk. I know Liverpool haven't been great, but I'd like to see Liverpool sign a centre-back before the window closes though, because they are currently down to just Van Dijk with Konate and Gomez out. I'm very likely to just hold him through the long term despite a bad fixture next game week. Cielo looks great, but it's just a transfer I don't have the room to make right now, and I think O'Reilly's got to be the bigger priority. All those weeks rolling though have helped. I know it's not as fun watching team selection videos and you're hearing it's going to be another roll this week for the third week in a row, but the value of free transfers cannot be understated. Like 10 points gained straight away last game week, able to act on those leaks, and I'm looking to spend another 2 transfers this week that I've got banked. I've played far from perfect though. Like Gakpo was such a stupid punt, and that was a transfer I really could have saved going straight to Enzo instead, but it just felt like it was worth a go at the time, given that he was under 0.5% owned at my rank and he had Burnley home. Let's have a look at how you guys got on, the best and worst scores, and then we'll run through the team. FPL Underdog, living up to the name here, says, even after missing the Man City leagues, so he captained Haaland, he started Foden, he still managed 62 points, so he beat me and he overtook me rank wise, green arrow to 41k. FPL Mind says, lowest possible score with 10 players as well. He says possibly you can use as a case study on how to avoid getting to this team. His only return was O'Reilly's clean sheet. He got DEFCON from Mukiele and Estev, but only 10 players played, 20 points all out after a -4 hit. That is devastating. Honest Hammer says everything went my way to be fair, and he's not wrong. 79 points, and he had all the key players that returned basically. He had Van Dijk, he had Anderson, Enzo, Rogers, Semenyo captain, Wilson, Bowen. Crazy week. Let's do one more, and I think this is actually the unluckiest of the entire season. Soy Eze says 15 points starting, 21 bench. On average, that's 1.36 points per player. 1.36. One of those weeks where just like everything possible goes wrong. You know, Dubravka, Stack and Dorgu on the bench get 21 points. Soy Eze says absolute nightmare. And it's not a bad team at all, honestly. I hope you do a lot better in Gameweek 24. Speaking of, let's run through the team for Gameweek 24 and transfer plans. Raya faces Leeds away, and it's not a good time to be Leeds facing an Arsenal side of a point to prove. There's still 4 points clear, but there's just no more room for poor performances, that's it. 2 draws and a loss in the last 3, and the gap's reduced at the top, with Arsenal still needing to play Man City away as well before the season's over. If Arsenal are to double in Gameweek 26, then we should expect a provisional announcement probably about a week today before the Gameweek 25 deadline. It requires Arsenal to knock Chelsea out of the League Cup semi-finals. They're currently leading after the first tie, and they play at the Emirates next, so it's about 90% likely that it happens. The only thing is, it does mean Arsenal and Wolves blank in Gameweek 31, so I'm actually also thinking about I'm going to be down to my backup keeper that week. And in fairness, Dubravka's got Fulham away, so it's not terrible. I don't think he'll keep a clean sheet there, but it's probably not worth a transfer, so I'll just use Dubravka that week. In defence, it's Gabriel, Van Dijk and Mukiele. The bookies' odds have got Arsenal top with a 44% chance of a clean sheet, Sunderland second on 42% home to Burnley, and then it's Chelsea and Man United joint third. Timber and Saliba both not in Arsenal's midweek squad in the Champions League. However, I think this is almost certainly just to give them a rest since they've already progressed in the Champions League. I'm expecting both to start with Gabriel against Leeds, probably Hincapie left back unless Calafiore's back. The focus is obviously the league over Champions League right now. The Mukiele versus Alderete swing from Gameweek 6 when I brought him in has been a bit crazy, hasn't it? It wasn't complete guesswork. Mukiele was posting better DEFCON and slightly better attacking numbers, but there was very little in it. It's just been so good, Mukiele. It's his last start in the team for a while now. Sunderland have got Arsenal and Liverpool after this Burnley game, and then he'll probably come back in for Fulham home, Gameweek 27. I really hope one of Gomez or Konate is back in time for Gameweek 24, following both of them missing the Champions League midweek. Newcastle was a tough game and Bruno G is back for them as well. I could start O'Reilly instead. They've actually got about the same clean sheet odds. Liverpool only 1% behind, but Van Dijk's just got that significantly better chance of defcons. Plus I know he's nailed, whereas you never know what Pep will do. My gut feeling is O'Reilly does start again. Perhaps Champions League will give us an idea. In midfield, it's Bruno, Lafay, Saka and Enzo. Last time you'll see Lafay's face in the team for a while as well. The only thing about going double Sunderland is I'm a bit snookered for the next couple of game weeks that follow this one, since I've also got Thiago who's got a couple bad fixtures, particularly Arsenal game week 25, so I might actually be forced into starting Lafay depending on transfers I make. I'm going Bruno captain this week. I'm actually expecting a Haaland start, so it's really close. Bruno's created 7 big chances over the last 6 game weeks, that's top in the league. Next most is 5 over the last 6 game weeks. And on top of that, of course, Bruno's played 3 games in the last 6, so it's crazy numbers. Man United have just got so much momentum right now. They're playing some fantastic football under Karaj, and it's a home fixture, and the atmosphere is going to be absolutely bouncing at Old Trafford. The captaincy widget on my app has got Bruno top of 5 stars and then Haaland on 4 stars. So it's definitely those two that are the best choice this week. If you haven't got my app, just search FPL Focal in the app stores. There's tons of free tools to help you do well. And there's stuff like live bonus points, defensive contributions, rank checker, price changes, fixture ticker, stats and data. There's also some premium tools for only 77p a week with other benefits like you can hide the ads, you can rearrange the dashboard however you like, change the theme. FPL.page to use it in your browser or FPL Focal in the App Store, links below in the description. Enzo has registered 3.68 XGI over the last 6 game weeks, which ranks 5th best in the league, and he now enters probably the greatest fixture run of any team all season. West Ham home, Wolves away, Leeds home, Burnley home, 3 games at Stamford Bridge in 4. My only concern with such good fixtures is there could be an opportunity for Rosinha to rotate a few players due to the Champions League, League Cup and FA Cup to juggle. Like a win is needed against Napoli in the Champions League to finish top 8 and avoid playoffs. But a win is needed against Arsenal in the League Cup as well, the other side of that West Ham game, or they're out. Enzo looks the best Chelsea attacker though, and I definitely wouldn't let that put you off buying. João Pedro feels a little bit riskier, but honestly it might not even matter if he does get 3 starts in the next 4. I was chatting to Tom yesterday, and it's a weird season with the lack of strong template picks that you can just trust or set and forget. This was my team, this same game week last season. Raya, Trent, Bruno, Salah, Palmer, Semenyo, and Boomer, Visser and Isak were all such easy picks and just easy holds. And there was very few spots that even needed changing around. It's basically just the defence. And funnily enough, it was actually a double game week if you recall, because the Merseyside derby getting postponed, and I had the assistant manager chip active on slot. I even had Munoz and Strand Larsen on the bench, and then you compare to this season, like Saka, Enzo, Palmer, Salah, they're just not really long-term holds or set and forget, and a lot of them underperforming. I guess what I mean is there aren't many high-confidence picks, are there? Like I'd say Bruno, Gabriel, and that's about it from my team in the same game week as last season. Whereas the last game week, I'd say there's 8 there. Every FPL season is a different challenge though, and that's part of what makes it so fun to me. You have to adapt to what's in front of you each season. So up front, it's Haaland, Thiago and Ekitike. Spurs have got a lot of players out injured for their Champions League games, so Porro's now ruled out for 4 weeks, Van der Ven's out, Davies, Bentancur, Bergvall, Maddison, Kudus, Kulusevski, Richarlison, and I do think Haaland's still a very good captain choice, maybe even the best, and he's playing for a point to prove as well against a weak Spurs side that are underperforming. The projected goals for Gameweek 24 have got Chelsea top on 2.3, Man City 2.1, Man United 2.0, and then it's Liverpool, Arsenal, Brighton, Villa, Sunderland and Bournemouth. On a wild card, I would actually go no Thiago for 3 game weeks, and then I'd basically book in a transfer to bring him in once those tough games are out of the way. But in my case, I actually don't have enough free transfers to take him out and bring it back in, and to be fair, I bought him for 6.2 mil, so it's a bit different depending on your buy price and what it will cost you to sell and get him back. I'm looking at selling Ekitike this week. He's been a bit of another disaster transfer this season. So he had fixtures home to Leeds, home to Wolves, home to Burnley. He had Bournemouth away, and he's got 1 assist over those games and a bench him. Plus he missed Fulham and Arsenal out injured. So he's averaged 2.5 points per game that he's actually been involved in. So that's excluding the ones he missed completely. I don't actually mind the idea of keeping Ekitike, depending on your team. They do have some decent fixtures coming up, but I'm looking to sell all things considered, so let's talk about transfer plans. On the bench, it's Dubravka, O'Reilly, Anderson and Barr. My gut feeling is O'Reilly starts, so if I end up needing the bench, it's not the end of the world. I think he'll probably start, but hopefully I won't need the bench. I've got 2 free transfers, and some of the options are Ekitike to Watkins, since Villa have got great fixtures, and I think he's a really strong choice long term. I'm not expecting Abraham's signing to impact his minutes much, personally. However, they've got McGinn and Tielemans out for about 6 weeks, plus Camera's out for the season. I'm just not sure if they can sustain their run with all these issues. I've got a few mates that are Villa fans and they're sort of feeling similarly, and it's just so unlucky how many players they've had out in such a short space of time. It could depend massively on how Douglas Luiz looks back at Villa. Another option is Ekitike to João Pedro, and this feels really strong when you look at those next 4 fixtures, even if he doesn't start, say, one of the next 4. The 2 moves that I'm looking at making are Ekitike to Mane and Barr to Mbeumo. So on the transfer plans video, I was feeling really torn which way to go. However, it's since been reported that Dorgu is going to be out for around 10 weeks after injuring his hamstring against Arsenal. 10 weeks. My worry with Mbeumo was Cunha coming on for him the last 2 games. Like, you don't want an asset that's 8.3 million going off for like 70 minutes every week. In theory, this should bump his minutes up moving forward. I expect it could be Cunha that comes into the team in Dorgu's place. Although they're different types of players in profile, I think that's probably what will happen. I've been reading through Man United forums and how they expect to line up, and there's a few suggestions being thrown around and how they could line up, but my interpretation is that this makes Mbeumo a better pick and should get better minutes. I'm still making a decision on Mane versus Krupi. Mane's 4.5 mil, Krupi's 4.6. Krupi's playing for a better team, slight chance of penalties, but he's getting worse minutes, and he doesn't have that potential double Gameweek 26, which is likely for Mane. Don't get me wrong, it's a pretty shocking double for Wolves. It'd be Forest away, Arsenal home. However, if you recall, I was saying that the problem with my double Sunderland is they've got Liverpool in 26 and Thiago's got Arsenal, so he could actually be really handy that week with a double. He would leave me a player lighter in blank Gameweek 31 though if they double, where I don't plan to use a chip. So my potential players blanking would be Raya, Gabriel, Saka, and also O'Reilly and Haaland almost certain to blank, plus Mane. So they're the other team that are in the League Cup semi-finals, Man City, and they're leading 2-0 against Newcastle after the first leg, so they're likely to blank in 31 as well. So that would be 6 players blanking, or make it 5, because obviously I've got a backup keeper. I could start Dubravka. In Game Week 25, I'm looking at maybe O'Reilly to Cielo potentially, because Newcastle have been actually really good defensively, second best this season for XGC after Arsenal, and they've got some fairly good fixtures from 25, particularly to cover my Sunderland assets with their 2 bad fixtures. And they've got Sunderland home in Game Week 31. So if I was to sell O'Reilly, one way or the other, I'd then be down to Gabriel, Saka, Haaland and Mane that blank in 31, so 4 players. I would sell 1 or maybe 2 of those in 31 to bring it down to 2 blanking, so therefore I could get a full 11 out. Fulham, for example, they've got Burnley home in 31, so that could be Saka and Mane to Wilson and Raul Jimenez, and I'd have 2.5 mil left over, for example. So that's the rough plan of where I'm at with the team. Mane versus Krupi still to be confirmed, though. I'm not set one way or the other. Krupi would have Man United home in 31, by the way. I just think he's not a nailed starter either, so for all I know, I could get him now. I'd miss the double, and I'd still want to sell him in 31 regardless. Therefore, I think Mane could be worth a go for that potential double. Anyway, I'm rambling now. Thank you for watching, and hit subscribe if you'd like to follow my team and other content to help you do well this season. See you soon for the next one.